be a good WRC9 driver? Well, I think you're in the right place. Let's get into this. So hello everyone and welcome back to my channel for a brand new video on WRC9. We're here for the series that you've been requesting for quite a long time, and I'm finally doing this because I think I finally got things right in the studio to finally make this series a reality. A lot of you ask me, how can I be faster? Can you give me some tips? Can you give me your wheel settings? Can you give me some tips on the handbrake, the throttle, the brakes? And that's what we're going to be doing in this series. So in this first episode, I'm going to be showing you off the very basics, how to drive pretty much, how to use the handbrake, which is very important in this game, how to use the throttle, how to use the brake, and also my wheel settings right at the end of this video. If you're using a Fanatec CSL Elite, if you want to launch the G29, I think I can still help you despite not owning it anymore. I feel like I can still help you because I've been owning that wheel for quite a while and I know quite a lot of things about that wheel. So today I'm going to be showing you the usage of the handbrake, and that's why I got this wheel cam right there, which is, this is the button for the handbrake. Unfortunately I don't have a proper handbrake, but we're gonna go on with that, and I feel like you can completely utilize the handbrake even with that kind of button. So the handbrake, you use it for low speed, high speed, and mostly hairpins. How does it help you? It pretty much locks all the tires, all the wheels, and it helps you get a bit of a tighter line through a corner. So pretty much if you want to go right here, you can use the handbrake and just do that. Use a bit of a handbrake and do that. But it's not as easy as it sounds. A lot of you face issues with the handbrake, and the reason is you either press on it for too long, you either don't lift off the throttle, you either brake too much. So the main thing, the main tip that I would give for a handbrake, and I'm going to go into a proper stage to show you off, is use the amount of throttle that you need and lift off the throttle slightly. So step by step, you go second gear, brake, lift the throttle, handbrake, and then a slight amount of throttle. The problem that a lot of you new drivers do is you don't know how to control the throttle, and that is why it's very important to learn not to go either flat out or completely lift off. In order to utilize the handbrake 100%, you need to learn how to control the throttle. So mid-corner, you have to get a bit of throttle in order to help the car slide in. So brake, handbrake, and a bit of usage on the throttle in order to make the car spin a little bit on that hairpin. I'm not going to be using the third-person camera, don't worry. I know a lot of you are quite mad, but it helps out a lot of people to see the reaction of the car in the hairpin. That's it pretty much. If you press a lot on the handbrake, the car is going to stop. If you press a lot on the throttle, it's never going to slide. So it's just about brake, a little bit of throttle on the entry, and it just happens. There's not a place to actually do that, so I'm just going to go into a stage and show you how to actually go through some hairpins, or I should say a lot of hairpins. You might be wondering, why did I choose Monte Carlo? Firstly, it's a location I know very well. Not only that, it has this stage called the Brow. Is probably the best place to work on your handbrake skills. Why is that? The multiple amount of hairpins you have later onto the stage. And I chose the downhill version because I think it's a little bit easier for beginners to go downhill rather than just doing the uphill version. I'm not going to do the uphill version here. It's pretty much the same, but it's a little bit tougher, and that's why we're doing the downhill version to teach you even better how to use the handbrake. Starting off with this slight hairpin, and this is pretty much the tactic. Brake into the corner, which we're gonna analyze in a bit. Brake into the corner. I'm gonna show you. Here they start. Brake, first gear, handbrake, a little bit of throttle. By the time you lift up the handbrake, you have to press a little bit of throttle, but not too much, so that the car can still slide. And you can just get that nice little slide into the hairpin. And that's pretty much all about it. Brake, handbrake, a little bit of throttle, and that's it. Brake, here, throttle, 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 there you go, flat out. Handbrake, throttle, 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 now flat out. And that's pretty much the technique. There's nothing really else, and you can just do that. For me, this is probably the most enjoyable thing you can do in rallying. I absolutely love this couple of hairpins there. And yeah, that's pretty much how you do. There's not a reason anymore with this kind of motor cons to do the Norwegian flick, which you just go to the left. There you go, I crashed, that's how you do that. But the Norwegian flick is pretty much go to the left and then kick it right. It depends on where the corner is, in order to kick the back of the rear of the car. You don't need to do that anymore, because nowadays these cars have a lot of downforce. They have a lot of grip, and you just use a little bit of handbrake and you can just get on through every single hairpin that you want. So that was pretty much the handbrake, how to use it. Hopefully I've helped you. I feel like it's quite easy. It's quite easy. Really, I think it's quite easy. I think it's not really. It's just about practice. So go into this stage, called the browse, reverse if you want to do the pretty much the hill climb version or the downhill version. If you want to do the downhill, then choose this stage. But all in all, I feel like whatever you choose, just practice this couple of hairpins. Do whatever I told you. Brake, first gear, handbrake, lift off the handbrake, not too much on the handbrake. Hopefully you saw how much I pressed it on the wheel cam. And yeah, that's just pretty much all about it. And use a little bit of throttle, just like I'm gonna do here. A little bit of throttle, not too much. And when you're on the straight line, where you straighten the wheel, go flat out and attack the corner just like you're supposed to do, because you're a rally driver, you need to be fast, you know what I'm saying? And I'm talking about gravel, it's the same thing on gravel, whereas on gravel it's actually easier. Gravel has a tendency to make the car slide even more in this game. I don't know if these are the correct physics, but we're talking about WRC now, and I'm not really teaching you how to be a rally driver, because I'm not one. I'm teaching you how to drive on WRC 9. This happens, as you can see. It's pretty much the same technique, but there's a higher chance that you might as well. Let me show you one mistake you're capable of doing. That's the mistake you're going to be missing. The mistake that I showed you right now is way too much pressure on the handbrake, and when you brake, you apply way too much throttle, which pretty much results in you spinning way too much your wheels, that you're not gonna get the corner right. You're pretty much gonna keep on spinning the wheels and you're gonna lose a lot of speed, so you're not carrying too much speed. And this is pretty much the mistake that a lot of people make. They step way too much on the throttle on the hairpin on gravel, which doesn't allow you. This is the mistake. You see what happens when you press too much throttle on a hairpin on gravel? This is what happens. You spin a lot of wheels and you might end up in a rock, or you just might lose a lot of time by the end of the day. The right way to do it though is this one. Brake, a little bit of throttle, a little bit of throttle, you see? Brake, handbrake, a little bit of throttle. That's how you do it. Brake, handbrake, a little bit of throttle, and that's pretty much a perfect hairpin in gravel. And this is the hardest gravel hairpins you're ever gonna get on a game. They're very narrow. Argentina, you know what I'm saying, very rough gravel. There's nothing harder in gravel. So I feel like we're done with the whole handbrake issue. Hopefully I've helped you out with the handbrake, and I'm gonna be moving now into something a little bit more basic. And I feel like there's not any better place to do that than Japan. So let's head into Japan and see how more you can improve on this game. So I have no idea if you're coming from WRC 8, but if you do, WRC 8, the brakes were not very good. And what I mean by that is, if you broke way too hard on WRC 8, you would have locked up badly, which resulted in not making the most out of the corner. Here, you can step on the brakes as much as you want and nothing happens, which is more like reality. Rally cars do not really lock up that much, like an F1 car, which was the case on WRC 8. Here you can just brake very, very, very hardly. Look at that. Now, is that the best way to always take a corner? No. No, you shouldn't always brake as late as you can. That's not the right way to do that. But, and what do I mean by that? If you brake way too late in a corner, just like on the previous one, you might as well lose the car, you might as well lose the back end, and that is not ideal. Now, if you practice a lot, you're not going to lose the back end. But you're always going to get a little bit of a squeeze on the wheel, and what you need to do in that case is learn how to correct the car. So for example, there's a bit of a bump here, and we're gonna brake very hard, which you don't need to do. You see, the car tends to go a little bit to the right, so I correct it, slight turning to the left, and that's how you correct the mistake. I suggest you to start learning to brake late, because that way you're gonna be much faster, and it's just a very, very helpful tip. Brake late. And I mean it, late. You gotta find the limits of each stage and the limits of the car in order to be fast. If you want to be fast, brake late. If you want to be safe, brake a little bit earlier. But if you really want to be fast, brake late. Learn how to correct the car when you lose the handbrake, when you lose the back end. Learn how to correct it. As we go into another hairpin, let's see if you remember what I do. Sometimes you might not have to use the handbrake for a hairpin. You might as well just use the amount of power that you carry, step a lot on the brakes, and then just apply a little bit of the throttle, which will make the car slide. That's why I'm saying you need to learn how to use the throttle. And now I'm gonna be moving to the next topic. I feel like the brake thing is fairly understood. Heavy on the brakes. Just turn in. Go as steep as you can into the brakes. The car is gonna stop, especially in tarmac. It's gonna stop. Now, I'm talking about dry conditions. I'm gonna cover up the wet conditions on another video, because if it's rainy, that affects your whole driving style. You're not gonna drive the same. What I'm telling you right now is only for dry conditions. So don't be mistaken to try and do these things on a wet track, because they're not gonna work. I'm telling you, especially the brake thing. Don't try this on the wet conditions. Now for the throttle has a lot of uses. It has the use that we use it right now to carry a lot of speed, but it also has another use. Now, if you're a good student, you might have understood that, well, why do we use throttle on a hairpin? To spin the car, to lean, to learn how to control the rear of the car, to make the car rotate. This is a lot of terminologies I've just given you. How do I use the throttle to rotate the car? It's pretty much a combination of what I've told you so far, in terms of how to use the brake and how to use the throttle. Nicely done. But yeah, how do I use the throttle to rotate TM? You might be wondering. Brake, very hard, turn in, and apply throttle, but not too much throttle. I don't really know how to show you that, but I'm gonna try to. This is a good corner for what I've told you. Brake, turn, apply a little bit of throttle. So the target is to lose the back end a little bit. For example, here I didn't use handbrake, but I was a bit slower. I was slow because I carried way too much speed, went very deep into the hairpin, which allowed my wheels to spin way too much. So, how do we apply the throttle to rotate the car? Brake hard, lift off the throttle, and then slightly apply throttle. It's just again the case of not going flat out or fully lift off. It's just about learning how to apply the amount of throttle you need. Just like in here, you see, you slightly rotate the car. Don't expect a huge drift, but you need to learn how to apply 70% of throttle, 50% of throttle, in order to learn how to control the car. Very important to do that, and I feel like once you learn how to utilize the brakes, just like I did here, you know, it's just very, very important. These little details you need to learn, like handbrake, brake, and throttle. 3 things we learned today. You need to do them. And because I didn't forget you, because somebody asked me for that, I'm gonna be going into the main menu and show you my wheel settings. I have no idea if you use a CSL Elite, but if you do, hopefully it can help you. Pretty much the wheel settings are controls, and let me go on the settings. These are my wheel settings on the Fanatec CSL Elite. So the wheel angle is on 520, overall force 150. This is very increased because I couldn't feel a lot the force feedback. Self-aligning torque, you play a lot with that. This is the most important setting, the self-aligning torque. This is pretty much the amount of torque you have on the wheel when you're turning. So this is why this is very important. This depends on how you drive. I have it set on 150 and I feel very comfortable with it, but some people have it set it lower, some people set it higher. It really depends. Tire load on 110, self-center on 104. Doesn't really matter. You do you on this one, and recenter force 100, which doesn't really matter. And the rest is pretty much on default. I don't have any of these things. When I was on the Logitech G29, the overall force was on 110, something like that. The self-aligning torque must have been on 100 or 120. The tire load was on 100 and the rest was also on 100. So the settings on the Logitech G29 are much more simple. You don't really need to play along with the settings on the Logitech G29, which is very nice. It's very nice, I have to admit. But once you buy this CSL lid, you're gonna feel like a flipping king when you set the wheel correctly on this game. And I've set it correctly and I'm having fun. So follow these settings, but yet again I'm telling you, the self-aligning torque is a bit of a more like personal thing. It depends on how you want to drive. So these were the wheel settings, and yeah, I'm just gonna see you in the next video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure you smash the like button because it really helps me out. Hopefully I've helped you to learn the basics of rally. Down in the comments below, please post questions that you may have and I'm going to be answering them. Hopefully you're not going to have any questions and this video will answer all your questions on the 3 basic things that we've learned today: throttle application, brake application, and also how to use the handbrake on hairpins and all that beautiful stuff. Next episode we're going to be discussing wet weather driving, so pretty much these 3 techniques and how to apply them on wet weather, because they're completely different. Don't do this on wet weather, they're not going to work. So we're going to be covering that on the next episode, which is going to be coming very soon. Join my Discord server because we have quite a lot of fun. You can actually suggest things there, you can ask me questions there, you can do whatever the F you want there pretty much. And yeah, also follow me on Twitter, I'm pretty active there. And yeah, it's been your boy TM for this video, and until the next video guys, I'll catch you later. Goodbye.
I know you hear all the time, but I got to know what's your sign. I know you hear all the time, but I got to know what's your sign. Let me get that off your mind. It really don't matter, you a Scorpio tonight, and it's. Let me get that off your mind. It really don't matter, you a Scorpio tonight, and it's. I know you hear all the time, but I got to know what's your sign. I know you hear all the time, but I got to know what's your sign.